Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts. Today I pulled out the Simple Stories Howdy collection as well as this page map sketch from August of 2025. I'm really enjoying that they are back, and I have actually been trying to keep up with the new sketches that are coming out because I'm really enjoying them. I was recently working on a layout with this collection and I saw this floral paper with the wood grain background and I really liked it, and I knew I had some photos of me horseback riding and I thought it would be perfect to create a layout. And since this new sketch came out, I was like, why don't I go ahead and pair that with the photos that I have? And it worked out really well. I did have a couple more photos than what the sketch called for, so I did decide to pull out a flip flap, and the photo that's going to be on the top is a selfie that I took, so it's kind of close up. When you open it up, there's another photo of me on the horse with that beautiful canopy background. I decided to go ahead and use this blue paper as the background. It has like this denim texture to it. It almost looks like it's a really close-up print of a pair of blue jeans. And the backside of it has that realistic horse and cowboy, which I feel like doesn't go with this collection. So I was perfectly fine with using the entire sheet for both my background pieces. Of course, I am going to mat this main photo of myself on the horse with the blue paper. I am going to be using my layering guides. I do have a tutorial linked below on how to use these. They're great if you want to use your background as your matting. This is that floral piece that I was telling you about that I feel like is very girly. And while I try to do layouts of myself, sometimes I do neglect that. I'm not a big floral person, but I think with the added texture of that wood grain in the background, this paper just spoke to me and I knew that I wanted to use it on a layout about myself. I did decide to cut two different strips of the floral paper. The top piece I did cut at 2 inches and the bottom one is at 3.5 inches. And then for the right-hand side of the layout, I'm going to be using this blue and black paper. I was trying to decide how much I wanted to cut, so I did go ahead and lay down my two photos because I did know that I wanted to have both of these photos on that blue and black paper. I then pulled out my notebook border punch and added a notebook border to the edge, just like the sketch calls for. And then I'm going to trim it down just a little bit so that I can add part of it to the left-hand side and then the major part of it on the right-hand side. I knew that I needed some type of red to really pull out the red in that floral paper. I tried the red checkered. I wasn't liking that. I pulled out this paper here that has the like bandana look on it. It was way too busy for the layout, and especially right next to those florals. I looked through the rest of the paper and I did try this yellow paper, but there wasn't a lot of yellow and I felt like it just stood out way too much and it just kind of clashed with the wood grain. I brought back the red checkered paper, but I wasn't liking that, so I decided to go into my stash and I pulled out this red Swiss dot cardstock from Basil, and I love the texture of it and I love the deep red that it brings to this layout. Because I had the really large piece on the left hand side, I decided that I would go ahead and add a smaller piece over on the right, just because red is a dominant color and I felt like it was weighing too much on the left, but by adding a small strip of it to the right hand side, it balanced it out. I did add a border to the edge of the red paper just to give it a little bit of extra texture. And then I thought, why not go ahead and double mount this photo with the red as well. I think that the green in the background is so bright and vibrant, and then having the blue and the red as a matte just really makes that green pop even more. So now I'm going to go ahead and get all of these papers down, and as I'm doing that, let me just tell you a little bit about these photos. I think you guys are well aware, if you follow my channel, that I am single, and so often I go on dates. Most of the time, those dates don't work out, but I really try to make my dates kind of fun. Obviously, Disney is always an option of going out to Disney, even if we are doing things that don't include going to the parks, like going and watching the fireworks or going and walking around the boardwalk. You don't need a park pass to do those things, so there's been oftentimes that I've gone on dates with those. But I do live in a small town, and the joys of living in a small town are things like being able to go horseback riding as a date. And so while this layout is obviously about a date, he was actually pretty understanding about me being a scrapbooker and wanting photos. And so he actually took several photos of me on the horse without even me realizing it. Obviously, there was that one main 4x6 photo that he took of me while I was on the horse. I'm looking at the camera, so obviously I knew about that one. But there was a couple of others that he snapped. And then when we were done, he said, "I took these photos if you'd like to have them." And I was really surprised at how well they turned out, and the fact that he had listened to the fact that I was a scrapbooker and thought that I would enjoy having these photos. There's only one photo of him, and it's really more of a photo of me, and he just happens to be in the photo on the edge of it. I did put a post-it over it because while we did go on several dates, it just didn't work out. There wasn't a love connection there. So I do want to be respectful of his identity. For my journaling, I definitely leaned more into the fact that I live in a small town, and that means that I get to go on things like horseback riding dates. And by enjoying these trails, you feel like you are miles from the city, but then every once in a while, the city kind of pokes through and you see whether it's the train tracks or the power lines, or you hear the cars whizzing by on the interstate just past the tree lines. You still know that you're within the city limits, but you definitely feel like you've got that country living. And I do really enjoy living in a small town for those reasons. So I decided to lay all the photos down flat, except for the 4x6 photo and then the photo that I took of my horse. And then I realized that I forgot that I had one additional photo and I wanted to sneak it in. It was a photo that was taken in the landscape mode instead of portrait, and so it didn't fit with the sketch, but I knew that I could sneak it in over on the right hand side just above the two portrait photos. I started to look through the tags and I found this tag that says "Happy Trails to You." It definitely has a card vibe to it, but I'm going to use it on this layout because I think it works well. So I do go ahead and cut off the edges, and I use a hole punch to cut the center out before tucking it in behind the two photos on the far right-hand side. And then I started to look for a second card because I thought maybe it would look better over on the far right-hand side with two cards. So I did find this one tag here that has the blue and white polka dots at the top. And I tried it out over on the far right, but I just wasn't liking it, but I liked the blue color. So what I decided to do was trim it down and add it over on the far left-hand side to bring in the blue from the blue and black paper on the right. I then started to look through the ephemera pieces, trying to find something to be my title starter. I found this ephemera here that has a notebook punch already, so it ties in the notebook punch that's on that blue and black paper. And it's pretty simple, and I knew that I could cover up that top part. So I did go ahead and cut it in half, and I'm going to add my title of Happy Trails with the foam stickers. One of the things that I love about Simple Stories is that their foam stickers usually do have quite a few title pieces that you can use. Because I had foam stickers on the left-hand side, I decided to go ahead and add a floral in that foam sticker as well, just trying to make sure that I have balance between the two layouts. I then found these clouds, and I felt like that gave you some neutral space for your eye to rest, especially with that really busy floral paper. So I went ahead and added it right next to my title. I also added one on the right-hand side of the layout, as well as a little horseshoe. And then I'm absolutely going to pull in all of the little florals that I can. So I did add one over to that tag area. I pulled out this wagon wheel, and if you saw my layout that I did earlier with this collection, you know that I tried to make that wagon wheel work on the other layout, and I'm so glad that it didn't work because it works perfectly on this layout. Right next to the title, I decided to go ahead and add that barrel as well as the lantern. And then again, I don't know what these pieces are called. There are a lot of them on that tag that says Happy Trails. So I went ahead and cut one in half and added it to both sides of the layout. And then I decided to add the other half of the tag that I used for my title starter over on the right as well. I then pulled out the puffy stickers and I added a little rope on the left-hand side, as well as this little lizard that's wearing a bandana on the right. He was super cute. And then more of those little diamond shapes in each one of the clusters. I found this word phrase that says a grand old time. I thought that was perfect, as well as one that says horsing around. So I added both of those on the right hand side. And then I pulled out those embellishments that I got from bottom of the bin and just added a silver horseshoe to the upper left hand side. Of course, I'm going to pull out some jute twine and add it to both of my tag holes on the left and right hand side of the layout. And then of course, pulling out my glue dots to make sure that my jute twine stays in place. I felt so proud of myself because I actually added the date with my roller date stamp right to the tag over on the right hand side. And whenever I use the roller date stamp, I do like to stamp it 3 times just to give it kind of a messy look. I felt like the left of the date was looking a little bland, and I tried out a cactus, but I wasn't really liking that. And then I tried a star, definitely didn't like that, but then I found this blue bandana and I was like, yes, that is perfect. I felt like I needed a couple more pieces, so I did add another floral piece in the puffy stickers. And then I pulled out my enamel dots in the teal, red, and blue color and added it to the cluster with my date, as well as adding one yellow one up to the right hand side as well. I then decided to go ahead and do my journaling on film as well. I don't normally do this, but lately I felt like my videos have been really short, and this is something that I get a lot of questions on, so I thought I'd go ahead and add it in. I do use a die that you can pick up from scrapbook.com. It is often out of stock. Make sure you hit that notify button because I feel like that gives scrapbook.com the ability to see that people are wanting it, so they might order it more often. And then if you are in my Facebook group, I also have that notify option on. So as soon as I get an email, I am posting it over in my Facebook group. And the last time they had only ordered 4, and within 2 days they went pretty quickly. Make sure you have that notify me selected, or join my Facebook group and you guys can get the notifications from me as well. I do use the spreadsheet that Nicole created. I will link her video below where she explains all of the details of the spreadsheet. I love this technique. I love having my journaling this way. I feel like it adds so much character to a layout. And then I do stack my journaling strips too high. So I have 2 blank ones that I use, and then I stack the journaling on top of it. So there's 3 pieces of cardstock, and it gives it that weight of it being like a thicker or up on fun foam. Of course, I go ahead and pull out my T-square ruler and realize that that flower paper is not straight. So I did have to pull that up to get it down straight. And then I added my journaling. My journaling says, only in a small town can you plan a date that involves saddling up and hitting the trail. This one wound through a canopy of trees and followed quiet paths, making it feel like we were out in the middle of nowhere, yet the city was just minutes away. A reminder that adventure is often closer than you think. All right, guys, that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. I hope you guys enjoyed this second layout this month with the Simple Stories Howdy collection, as well as the new sketch from Page Maps. I am loving them. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.